Hi, everybody. Charlotte and my name is Jordan, are here today to do our parenting webinar. Before we get into the information, we're just going to go over a few important things and reminders. So this presentation is for educational purposes only. Please consider your own situation and safety concerns before putting into practice any of the ideas we talk about today. Please make sure to watch this. Oh, can you go back one, Charlotte? Sorry. Please be sure to watch this in a safe place where only safe people can hear it. Remember to clear your browser history after watching the video if someone monitors your phone or computer. Use headphones to ensure no one else is listening or watching. And if you need to leave this live webinar quickly, remember that you'll need to click end a couple of times and then close the Zoom page. So confidentiality, please do not use the chat feature on this Zoom. If you use the chat feature, your name and comment will be seen by anyone watching the live video and the video recording on YouTube. If you leave any comments on the YouTube video recording, your name and comment will be seen by everyone else who watches it, and we unfortunately don't have the ability to go back and delete those comments. If you are in crisis and need help with emergency safety planning or are looking for emergency shelter due to domestic violence, please call our 24-hour hotline number, which is 214-946-4357. And if you'd like to sign up for counseling, our services are all free at Genesis, or want to talk to a counselor about your situation, or are interested in advocacy services, you can call our number at 214-389-7700. If you have any questions about anything we talk about today, anything that's presented on, Charlotte and I and Amber, who's usually on this webinar, our information and contact number and email will be at the end of this PowerPoint. And again, we do not monitor or respond to any comments on questions or questions left on YouTube video recordings. So please just reach out to us personally so we can answer your questions, comments, or concerns. And lastly, we wanted to provide you guys with some resources. So the Genesis Women's Shelter and Support, our number, our hotline number is 214-946-4357. The National Domestic Violence Hotline number is 800-799-7233. And National Suicide Hotline is 800-273-8255. So now we are going to get started. So if you've been following along, we've been following ARC, which is Attachment Regulation and Competency. So today we're just going to explore some of those parenting strategies with you guys. So today is mostly focused on mirroring. So mirroring is the ability to validate your child and to reflect their emotions and feelings. So when we validate children, right, we demonstrate our support, to demonstrate or support the truth or value of, right? And so you're getting on your child's level and you're saying, I'm listening, I'm hearing you, I'm building empathy towards you through validating those feelings. And reflecting those feelings is being able to express through your body language, through your affect, and through your verbalizations that you understand or are trying to understand what they're feeling. So the important is to search for what's underneath the behavior. Kids primarily communicate their emotions in nonverbal ways, such as through behavior and play. Often, as adults, we get caught up in the trap of addressing the surface behavior before considering what is underneath the behavior or what is driving the behavior, right? And so when a kid acts out or is super excited, right, and they're jumping around or running, or they're angry and they're hitting, right, we automatically want to jump to stop doing that or pointing out their behavior instead of really figuring out what feeling are they feeling. Are they really hyper and have a lot of balled up energy? Are they really, really angry? And when we're able to reflect and validate that feeling, we can connect with them and help them through that feeling or set those limits as needed depending on what they're feeling. So a few tips for mirroring. So helping or providing labels, right? So many young children do not have words for their emotional experience. It is adults who provide young children with the words and labels for their experience. And we do this again through reflection and validation, right? So when you're young, as adults, it's our job to teach the kids what they're feeling: angry, sad, helpless, worried, fearful. And when kids don't have those tools to verbalize those feelings, and that's when they try to exhibit those feelings, because it's the only way they know how, through their behavior, right? They're trying to get us to understand them. So some helpful tips would be to help validate through saying things like, it seems like. So it can be helpful to begin validating statements with the phrase, it seems like, because that allows the child to correct us if we're wrong, right? And so if we say, it seems like you're feeling angry, but maybe they're scared, right? It gives them the opportunity to say, actually, I'm feeling fearful. But also they now know that you're trying to understand how they're feeling and how you can help them. Another example of wording would be saying, it makes sense that. So sometimes it can be very helpful to normalize what they're feeling, to normalize their behaviors, or to normalize their feeling, right? So it makes sense that you would be sad right now, which allows them the opportunity to say, wow, what I'm feeling is okay, what I'm feeling is normal, and now, I can talk about that with you. So on the right side of the PowerPoint, we have some examples of specific phrases you could use. I just want to validate you as the mom. It can feel really weird when you start doing this at first. As a play therapist, I can absolutely understand when I'm in sessions with kids and I'm like, wow, all I'm doing is reflecting and validating. But what I'm really trying to do is give them the tools, so then they have that language to use when they're hurt or sad or fearful, and they can express themselves through that language. Some examples would be, that kind of thing can make kids feel really bad, right? So there you're normalizing what they're feeling. Your energy looks very high and uncomfortable, right? So that is just reflecting their behavior. You look so excited right now. Again, that would be reflecting and validating their feelings. Tell me more. That just allows space for that child to feel safe to share more about what they're feeling or their behaviors. I'm sorry, I know how much that meant to you, right? You're validating them. Boy, you just got really quiet all of a sudden. I'm guessing I hurt your feelings. Again, you're reflecting and validate possibly what they're feeling or why their behavior changed, right? And that's another important thing to look for. If you're having a conversation with the child and they start shutting down or their behavior changes, right, you can really try to reflect on yourself to see, what could I have done that changed that child's behavior or affect? And so now I'm going to turn it over to Charlotte, who's really going to go through specific behavior strategies to help you, gain the tool so you can utilize this with your kiddos.
Yes, thank you, Jordan, and good morning, everyone. Like Jordan was explaining, I'm going to give some specific strategies and tools that you can use with your kiddos. Praise and reinforcement. So this is going to be something that's really important to use. Positive reinforcement, research has shown, is really effective, and especially helping your kids hear more positive statements and positive reflections as opposed to negative. This is important because it helps build their children's awareness of successes and positive capacities. And to shift the adult frame from negative, bad behavior focus to positive. That way you can, the idea and the hope behind this is that you're increasing all of these positive behaviors instead of focusing on the negative. So every time you see that your children are playing a game together and interacting well and sharing, notice that and call attention to that. If you notice that they are using their language and telling you how they feel and using coping skills, you can praise that and reinforce that behavior. When to use this: anytime a child is engaging in a behavior you want to increase. Just kind of like I was saying, if they're sharing, if they're communicating their emotion, if they're using coping skills, conflict resolution skills, you'll want to reinforce that. You can do so verbally with words, just saying, I love the way that y'all are playing together. I love the way y'all are sharing the game. Non-verbally by showing pride and appreciation, and or concretely reinforcement charts or tangible rewards. A lot of kids really respond to having some kind of a star chart or something where they can see all of the tasks that they've completed and all of the expectations that they've met. And that can be really reinforcing for them. Another thing is I think children really like to hear parents talk about them to other people positively. So you may just be showing your pride and your appreciation about your child by talking about how proud you are of their conflict resolution skills or their ability to manage a stressful situation. It's important to be really specific and label the behavior specifically. So I'm so proud of you for trying to use your coping skills to calm down. You did such a good job listening when I asked you to clean up. So being really specific about what you're reinforcing and what you're praising for them. Just some trauma considerations when using praise and reinforcement. Be aware that praise and positive attention can be triggering for some children that are impacted by trauma. If they've never had that experience, it might be uncomfortable for them. So just being aware of that and validating that for them as well. If kids reject or ignore your praise, try not to take it personally and don't engage in a power struggle. If the child is disagreeing with or not responding to your statements, it's okay. You can just continue reinforcing consistently and you'll eventually start to see a different response. With children who seem triggered by praise, it may seem helpful to focus on the positive behavior rather than on the whole child and to be selective. So again, this is kind of speaking to being really specific about what you're praising. So instead of saying, what a great artist you are, what a beautiful picture, you might say, you worked really hard on this picture. I love the colors that you chose. I love the details of the flowers and the birds that you added. So just being really specific about what you like, not about them as a person, as like if you were to say something like, what a great artist you are. And just keep noticing the positive things, even for a child who seems distressed or unresponsive to praise and reinforcement. Over time, these will make an impact. Another one is problem solving. Why do we problem solve with our children? To help them build awareness of having and making choices, having that practice and the ability to get in front of challenges instead of just reacting to them. To help children feel more in control of and powerful over their lives. I think this is just helpful as we know, problems are going to arise throughout life for everybody. And so helping them to not become overwhelmed by them and not to feel like they're reacting instead of taking a step back and making choices about how they can solve this problem. Problem solving should be utilized in calm states. When your child is not overwhelmed with emotion, not overly distressed, when they seem calm, this is when they're best going to respond to your problem solving strategies. When they're asking you for your help, this would be an excellent time to use this strategy. And just regularly through building skills by practicing and addressing the many small challenges that arise day to day. And giving them the opportunities to think of what solutions might work, what compromises might work, what can they do. How does this work? So communicate your willingness to support their decision and your belief in the solution. Help the child identify, help the child identify what the problem is. What is it that you're trying to solve? What is the problem that we have here that we need to address? And supporting them in the solution. So like, let's figure this out together. Identify the goals and the outcomes. What do we want to have happen? Identify your choices. What kind of things might we be able to do? What are our options here? Identify the consequences. What would be the pros and cons of each one of these options? So if maybe we're choosing between soccer practice and a friend's birthday party, you can help explore with your child, okay, the problem is choosing between these two events that are important to you. What are the goals? What are the choices? You can go to the birthday party or go to soccer practice. If you don't go to soccer practice, you won't be able to play in the game. But if you don't go to your friend's birthday party, her feelings might be hurt and you would miss out on some of the fun. Make a plan and troubleshoot it. Be sure to pay attention to the adult support role. So you're trying to support them in making this decision and solving this problem. Some considerations, ability to engage in this process are going to depend on a few things. The child's agency, which is the child's belief in his or her ability to make choices and be successful at that. If they haven't had a lot of practice in making decisions, they might be a little unsure of themselves, or they might be hesitant to trust their own judgment. And this is where you can come in to support them on that. Depending on their state, which part of their brain is online? Are they in their downstairs brain when their lid is flipped and they are pure emotion, overwhelmed by that emotion, not able to absorb and understand logic, and to think clearly and to plan? If they're not into that if they're in that downstairs part of their brain, they're not going to be able to problem solve. So you want to make sure that they are calm and able to think clearly and come to a solution. At what stage of development is your child? What are some realistic expectations of what they're able to do and what they're able to understand? Because problem solving ability increases over time. You know, your 3-year-old is probably going to need a lot more support in making a decision than your 6-year-old. So just considering where they are developmentally when using the problem solving strategy. And also the adult's calm approach. Appropriate timing and ongoing support are crucial. Very few children can do this on their own. This is a skill that we all have to practice, and kids, it does not come to them naturally. So just being really patient with them, focusing on the state of their emotion and what part of the brain they're in when implementing these strategies, and just continuing to support them and praise them for trying. Limit setting. Why? To establish understanding of boundaries, expectations in a safe world. Children actually really like to know what their limits are. They really like to know what their expectations are. It's helpful to establish those when things are calm so that they know exactly what mom is expecting, what's going to happen if I break that rule, and what those consequences might look like. It helps children contain and shift negative behaviors and identify more positive alternatives. And it helps children learn where the lines are that are drawn regarding inappropriate behaviors. They just start to understand, because it's normal for children to test limits and to test boundaries. And it's important that you maintain these consistent limits and they start to understand where that line is. It's important to use limit setting when behaviors cross established boundaries. So if they're crossing family rules that are already established, not hitting each other, not calling names, not using disrespectful language, those might be established boundaries that you've already talked about in your family. Use limit setting thoughtfully, not just for every single behavior, but looking for opportunities that will be most productive. Use this in a calm state as an adult, making sure that your lid isn't flipped and that you're in a calm state of mind when implementing these strategies, and do so thoughtful. Provide age-appropriate responses and age-appropriate consequences. If naming consequences, do so when child is reasonably calm after regulation tools have been used. That's when, after they've calmed down, after they've used their coping skills, they're going to better understand and better be able to understand the reasoning behind consequences. Less is more. Be concise and clear in naming consequences. It doesn't necessarily have to be a lecture, just telling them exactly what rule they broke or what boundary they crossed, and what the consequence is, and link that to the behavior, not to the child. That behavior was a choice. It wasn't something about the child. And then move on after that. Allow space for the child's distress, affect, and emotion. It's okay for a child to be angry about a consequence. That is a normal response, to be disappointed about having a consequence, but also create space for repair. Try to let go of your own anger, and start using your own coping skills. A couple considerations when using limit setting. Again, this can be a potential trigger. Be thoughtful about history when choosing and naming consequences. For example, a child with neglect history, you might not tell them to go stay in their room. If yelling is a trigger for a child, then you're going to make sure that you're using a really calm tone of voice when explaining their consequences. And bring in attunement. Validate and name your child's emotion, even when you've identified a consequence for the behavior. So I understand how angry you are, but you have to use your words, not our hands when we're mad. So they're still getting that validation, but you're still being very clear about the limit, that the boundary that they cross. And make sure you're always separating the behavior from the child, so that they don't become or develop the belief that these behaviors are something innate in them that make them bad. Lastly, some building routines. So I've mentioned before, I know we've talked a lot about how important routine and consistency is. Children really like to know what to expect and what's coming next. A lot of times can create a more smooth day and smooth routine when they know exactly what's about to happen. So maybe in the morning, they know that they come to the kitchen for breakfast. They're expected to put their dish in the sink after breakfast, and then it's their responsibility to go pick out their clothes and brush their teeth and get ready for school. Meal times. What are the rules around how long does the meal time last? Is it until they're finished, or they just get 30, 45 minutes? What are you like I was saying, are they expected to put their dish in the sink? Are they expected to do any other chores around meal times? Play. Making time for just play, one-on-one time and family time are really important. Children crave these positive interactions with parents, and it's just as important to incorporate some of these one-on-one, really connecting playtime into your routine. And this is not a time to attach rewards or consequences. This is just a time for connection and attunement. Chores. You have some kind of established chore chart where your kiddos know exactly what chores they're responsible for and what might happen if they don't complete those chores. What routines do you have about homework? Maybe your kiddos get home from school and they have 30 minutes to have a snack and to play outside for a little bit before they need to sit down and finish their homework before dinner. Family together time. Maybe that means that every Wednesday is pizza and game night. So that way you get to have opportunities for family fun together. Bedtime. I think this is also a really critical time to have a routine. This is going to be, maybe after dinner, they get a little playtime, and then it's time for bath, that's when things are going to start to calm down. They get their bath time, and then there's a calming activity. Maybe that's sensory play, maybe that's reading a book, maybe that's singing songs together, but just making sure that it's very calming, safe activities to help soothe your child before sleep. And can you establish self-care in your routine? Walking, reading, positive validation, deep breathing, calling a friend. These are going to be important as a mom to be able to incorporate these into your routine, to be able to make sure that you're filling up your tank as the day goes, so that you're able to better support your children and be in the best headspace that you can to implement these strategies. Next, I'm going to pass it back over to Jordan, and she'll go over a little bit more about self-care.
Yes. Hi, guys. So lastly, we were just going to kind of have you guys reflect on a self-care exercise, and you can do this later, you can do it now, or as you're watching it, you can screenshot it, whatever is easiest. But we want you to consider or think about a challenging interaction or experience you've had recently in the past few weeks with either a person in your life or one of your children, and not a really heavy negative experience, just something more minor, and briefly just describe the situation to yourself. So as you describe the situation to yourself, try to remember what you felt. What were you thinking? What do you remember doing during that interaction? What happened in your body? So did your heart start beating fast? Did your palms start getting sweaty? Did your stomach hurt? And then think about, when you think about the situation now, what comes up for you? So does your stomach start hurting? Do you start to feel angry or upset again? What body sensations do you have? So after you think about the situation, consider if there's anything about this situation that's particularly hard for you and that might come up at other times. So if so, what is it? Consider specific behaviors, your own state. For example, were you really tired that day? Was it a really stressful time period for you? So after you think about that, then think about, are there any reactions that are typical when you're feeling stressed or upset? So which ones? So when you get stressed or upset or angry, are there some reactions that automatically come to you? So some common reactions, which would be very normal. And so when you think about those last two questions, circle if you're writing down, or just consider anything that might be a clue for you in future situations. So these elements, whether in situations or in your own reactions, are the cues that you might need to do something to take care of yourself. So think about that type of situation. What are your immediate goals? Consider some goals as trying to keep calm, trying to stay present, trying to be able to express yourself and get through it until another situation is over. And so when you think about future situations and how you want to present, how you want to be in those stressful situations or situations that may bring up feelings of irritation or angry, create some goals that will help you cope with these situations in the future. And so there's a few different categories for this, but advanced preparation would be something you can do before entering the situation. So if, say, it's with your child and you know every time you address this or have your child do this one thing, you know they're going to throw a tantrum or get upset. So when you know that you're about to enter that situation, is there anything you can do before? So can you take a few deep breaths? Can you seek support? Can you call a friend? Can you do some mental rehearsal, right? So picture yourself in that situation. How do you want to feel? How do you want to be able to express yourself? And the pocket strategies would be something you can do in the situation. So can you take a break from that situation and take a deep breath? Some muscle relaxation. So try tensing your hands and letting it go. Can you hold something, a stress ball in your hand, or can you smell anything that's relaxing? Anything, can you tell yourself something in your mind, right? Things are going to be okay. I can get through this. So those would be in the pocket strategies when the situation's happening. And then your recovery strategy. So after that stressful situation is over, what can you do after the situation? Can you reach out to friends? Can you go for a walk? Can you go to your room, even if it's for 2 minutes, to unwind and have that alone time? Can you drink something that you enjoy drinking, a cup of ice water, tea, coffee, something that's relaxing for you? Can you go outside for a few seconds? Play a game on your phone, read, anything that you can create space for. And then that last one is ongoing self-care. And so this is just really important. What self-care can you implement in your day, in your week, in your month, and that's really important to you and helps you, just helps you stay present, helps you take care of yourself day-to-day life. So this could be going for a walk once a day or once a week. This could be having a book that you really enjoy reading, watching a TV show, even if it's just 5 minutes of alone time where you can have your kids go to the other room and you can have some space, calling a certain friend that makes you feel really good weekly. But what kind of ongoing self-care can you incorporate day to day, week to week? And that's doable, right? Sometimes I think we think self-care would be having a whole day to yourself, but sometimes that stuff isn't realistic. And so what are realistic self-care ongoing things that you can create in your life that can really make a difference? Even if it's every morning you have a glass of tea you really like, but little simple things that you can think about. And that is it for the day. We want you to know that you're making such big steps towards helping your children heal and you heal during this difficult time. We know things are especially stressful with COVID, so remember to take care of yourself. Give yourself credit even for listening to this for a few minutes. You're doing a great job. And lastly is our contact information. So these are our names, emails, and phone numbers. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions, concerns, want services. And we really appreciate you taking the time to listen to us today. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.